Welcome, Aquarius, to your Mars in Aries 6-week forecast for the ascendant, the sun, or the moon. Mars returns to Aries on April the 9th through to May the 18th for the first time in just under 2 years. I'm going to share the event chart of when Mars arrives from a purely Aquarius viewpoint. Because for you, this represents house 3, very much to do with vibrant conversation and thinking. But also, I'm going to share the event chart. The exact moment Mars arrives creates a backdrop energy that will prevail over the entire transit. But I'm also going to share the aspect Mars forges through those 6 weeks. So at the end of the video, you'll have a clearer understanding of what's in store in terms of energy, work, relationships, and finance. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell. A very warm welcome. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now to help it to continue to thrive. Mars returns to the vernal point. It's incredibly powerful because it's the very start of the zodiac. So it can be an ignition point for you personally around ideas that you've been planning and developing over the last 6 weeks when Mars has been making his way through the part of your chart to do with foundations. But foundations and Pisces is a challenge because Pisces is, of course, water. So since the 2nd of March, Mars has been experiencing the resistance that water creates to the thrust of Mars. But just at the end of that process and earlier this week, Mars forged a tremendous sextile with your modern ruler of Uranus. So something that may have been blocked or inhibited, particularly with Mercury having been in its pre-retrograde shadow, then retrograde, then in its post-retrograde shadow, ironically emerging from that on the 9th, the day that Mars arrives in Aries. But something has just started to break through that you've worked really hard on over those weeks since the 2nd of March. And that's exciting. It may be that you are going to declutter your home, Uranus in the 4th, sell off items you no longer need. It may be that you're going to work from home or you plan your life in a different way to make it a bit more flexible in terms of earning money, but also leaning into the needs of your preference for space and flexibility around your personal time, but also perhaps your close family members too. But Mars moving home to Aries, if we think about the archetypes of Aries, is about passion. It's a fire sign. Initiation can be about courage. It can be about being bold. It's about getting on the front foot. Now, in a physical sense, the third house can be a desire to get more active, and that can be short cardio exercise. So whether it is when you go for a walk, walking between the lampposts even quicker, even if you do look a bit different. Maybe it is doing swimming, cycling, gym work where it's explosive. Very good exercise to do over the next six weeks. But the third house can also be about our beliefs. And if you've got beliefs or ideas that you're passionate about, Mars gives you the encouragement to be bold about them over the next 6 weeks. So that's encouraging too. Third house can be technology, and we're all in some ways or another dependent on technology today. Even if you choose not to have a smartphone, the chances are your power supplier will want you to have a smart meter and so on. So those issues can also come up. The third house can also be about short journeys, but the mode of transport too. Mars, of course, can be a bit of a risk taker. You may find yourself attracted to something that's a bit sportier, a bit faster, a bit nippier, or quite ironically, rather more technological, like an electric vehicle. Now, the welcoming committee includes Neptune, the dreamy Neptune, hot, arid, steamy in Aries. Um, and they are going to come into a conjunction on the 13th of April. But just before I get into that, let's just look at the position of the moon because it's in a square with the sun. So we have a quarter moon as Mars arrives, providing a backdrop energy for the next week. Now, a 3/12 quarter moon suggests that your emotions could be a bit sensitive, but there could be discussions or information shared which can feel rather exposing. It's not, the first week is not the best of times to be opening up to the wrong person. I think we all know people that we might quite like them. They're not maybe our complete cup of tea or a friend, but they are a person that can seize on information with relish. Don't give them any tasty tidbits in the first week, Aquarius. But also, you could find that some of your anxieties and concerns, third house can be thoughts, the 12th house emotions, but hidden emotions. The moon's also detrimented in Capricorn. So just because Mars is moving into this home zone, it's not going to be a solve-all. You know, there are still other competing influences to be mindful of. And also the sun's in a square with Jupiter, so essentially forging a T-square between those two positions. So the square with Jupiter can be one of those aspects where Mars, of course, can be blunt and direct, and Jupiter in Cancer can be more sensitive. The sixth house can be about routines, details, work, obligations. It's not the time to get too caught up in promising to do things. I think we can think, we can be active, we can be brilliant, but that square with Jupiter just suggests not taking that outwards too soon because it may create an obligation, the sixth house, which is not useful. And that more tender energy of the moon square, the quarter moon, I think is the one to really be more guarded about. So Jupiter can tempt us into being more exuberant at a time when it's better to be aware of that more sensitive inner world and processing the thinking around it. However, in terms of your home and emotional life, Uranus does remain for now through to the 26th of April in the sign of Taurus, and it is still in touch in a positive way with Mars, because ever since Mars moved into Pisces on the 2nd of March, it met resistance from the water, and with Mercury's retrograde, pre and post retrograde shadows, Mercury ends its post retrograde shadow on the 9th of April, ironically. But Mars has just forged that great link with Uranus. So, an opportunity to declutter and create some money from the comfort of your home for sure. But then that brings us to the conjunction with Neptune. So, however much you're passionate about your ideas and want to share them, it's important not just to be head down, go quick, those very Martian energies. Neptune suggests a degree of deftness and subtlety will be helpful too. So if you can articulate your ideas, if you like, the steel fist in the velvet glove, you kind of get the drift. But if you are feeling a sense of urgency about expressing your ideas, just also be aware of your, if you like, your more vulnerable side with that moon position. But then on the 13th, they come into an exact conjunction. But the third house does rule the nervous system. And Neptune can be draining to the position of Mars, but it can also be disorientating. So if there is something you're wanting to discuss with someone, make sure you've really planned what you want to say. Otherwise, you could get a little bit confused or maybe can't just get the message across as you would like. But by the 16th, Mars has moved forwards and is linking back to Pluto in your sign in an astonishingly powerful way. This really is a cracker because when these two collaborate, they're both the rulers of Scorpio, they create enormous willpower. Pluto's transforming your identity. Mars is encouraging you to share your ideas and your brilliance in a very punchy, assertive way. And for sure, you can do it around then. But soon enough, Mars moves forwards and on the 19th comes into a conjunction with your traditional ruler of Saturn. So it's the two malefics, uh, Mars the lesser, Saturn the greater, come into an exact conjunction at that time. If you are having a conversation, it may be around a work matter, it could be around something to do with technology, maybe it's expressing your ideas, do expect to experience some frustration, and maybe someone won't get where you're coming from or buy into your ideas in the way you would like. And Mars in a conjunction with Saturn can see us boil over with frustration. So just be conscious of that, but also don't doubt the ideas you have. They may need to be moderated. Saturn being in that third house for the next couple of years is going to give you a lot of feedback about how people receive your message, how they just experience you in terms of how you chat. And there may be some moments of disappointment and coldness. That's what Saturn does. But it's also asking you to make sure that what you say is what you mean. Mars can be in a hurry, Saturn can slow Mars down. So it's just saying if you are going to have an important chat, be very careful to pace the conversation, plan it, and say exactly what you want, but no more. Later in April, Mars arrives on Chiron. If you do doubt your intellect, your brightness, your ability to chat and even to integrate and socialize, particularly locally, which the third house is about, it's a great time to rethink that wound and perhaps release it. Just to say, you do have, as we come into May, Mars forging a square with Jupiter. Again, a bit like the Sun square with Jupiter at the start of the process, being careful not to overpromise is the key. But because Venus is in its home zone in your fourth house and forging a delicious link with Jupiter, so ironically, we have the two planets of fortune forging a great link at the start of this process. The two planets which can be linked to challenges coming into an exact conjunction on the 19th. But I think you can come through this. I feel that being in touch with your emotion as well as your ideas is the balance to attain, and that's really important. I'm going to summarize those four areas of energy, work, relationships, and finances next. But if you've yet to watch your April monthly deep dive forecast, it's on the screen. Your Libra full moon on the screen. We've reduced the price of the personal horoscope, sorry. You can have a forecast or a life roadmap report. You can have your draconic version. You pay for one and get three. It's great value. They're very accurate, unique to each person. We realize that things are difficult for a lot of people at the moment. We want to make them as accessible as possible. Please see the link below for more. If you'd like to chat to me one-to-one, please check out my testimonials. And if you've yet to sign up for your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning for your celestial pit stop, please see that link below too. So to summarize, have total belief and conviction in your ideas, Aquarius, but just know that not everything may rattle along quite at the pace you would like, which could create some frustration. However, if you're really invested in an individual idea, it can be a time when you do start to see tangible progress build up. Your finances, which have taken a pounding with that Mercury retrograde, I think can improve. I think also in terms of your romantic situation, as much as technology plays such a big part in our lives, I think what you're really looking for is a connection mentally. For sure, we all like to be attracted to someone, be comfortable in their company, but it really is about having that electric attraction. Mars in Aries can enjoy the thrill of the chase, will you? And as far as your professional situation is concerned, I think this continues to be a year when, with the arrival of Uranus on the 26th of April, it does bring a new dazzle to the situation, but it's going to be that solar eclipse on the 12th of August, which really starts to transform your year, and the arrival of the North Node in Aquarius at the end of July. So you are going to be emerging out of the energy that's been so prevalent over the last couple of years. As we get through to the back end of the year, I think finances can start to look better and work too. Have a great 6-week forecast, Aquarius. All the best and goodbye for now.